This is Blenderstyle, the show where we discuss an extreme blend of music. On this episode, Entheos, Time Will Take Us All, released in 2023. Cheers, gentlemen.
Cheers!
Sound kind of stock.
I've been familiar with Entheos for a while now, but not a super fan. And I probably thought that they had multiple singers when I first heard them because I wasn't looking at what they looked like or anything like that. And then I saw Chaney Crabb. She was like this other podcast I look at posted pictures. They're like laughing about how this chick was like just destroying these vocals. I was like, holy crap, that's the person in Entheos. And she's doing all the vocals. It's not multiple vocalists like I initially thought. It's just like one vocalist doing all of it. And it kind of blew me away. So I started checking it out. And then this album came out this year, and I was like, I listened to it once. I was like, yeah, let's definitely cover this one. So I wanted to know what you fellas thought of the latest Entheos. This is their third album.
So this is their third album. They were formed in 2015. They are originally a supergroup.
Okay.
Consisting of members from Animosity,
Yeah,
which was like an early thrash hardcore.
Yeah, I'm familiar.
Animals as Leaders, and The Faceless.
Okay, so everyone played in The Faceless at some
Pretty
point.
much.
Animosity was definitely a band that like me and my friends listened to. Like,
so I wasn't familiar with Animosity, but after reading this, I kind of went in it. Yeah, they were pretty ahead of their time, I feel like, for when they came out.
Proto thrash.
Yeah, it was really cool. I am as familiar with this as our last recording session.
Right.
When you were trying to go off about how this what's her name?
Chaney, yeah.
Chaney
I believe that's how you pronounce it, yeah.
was a better singer than Will Ramos, and I was not having any of it.
Yeah, because we reviewed...
and so I just kind of didn't pay attention to you at all. And then about the fourth or fifth listen through on this album, I was like, oh, fuck, he might be right.
So in this release, they have two members.
Yes, yeah. So it's just her and the
Homeboy doing everything
drums,
else.
guitar, bass, production.
But the vocals are what caught my attention initially. And that's what I shared with you guys.
I take that back. They do have a studio bassist.
Okay. Oh, do they?
Yeah. For this
they probably
album.
They probably write everything together. So I heard, like, this is the first time I ever heard of this band. Because, like, as you guys know, I'm not like that into some of this.
It's like tech death, almost like deathcore, progressive.
Like we've done Fallujah and stuff before, and like.
Yeah, this isn't that wheelhouse, I would say.
Yeah, and so I kind of like looked into them, but I guess like. This album, you know, was kind of almost themed because of the lead singer or something like that. I don't want to say something like that. She was in an accident, I believe, and like had to trauma to her face and
she had
stuff
like
like that.
110 stitches or something.
Yeah,
brutal.
Yeah. And like this is all like kind of like around, you know, obviously if you listen to the lyrics, like about death and time and kind of it seems like, you know what I mean. And I thought that was kind of a cool subject, you know what I mean.
Well, and it feels like this definitely feels like a concept album for the main reason in that all the tracks are seamless.
Yeah.
Like every track leads into the next one.
It flows very well.
Yeah,
it's intentionally nicely done. It doesn't feel tacked on.
No.
And it's kind of impressive.
I will say that
for 9 tracks, 40 minutes, it like all perfect.
It plays like a book.
It's like a fucking Pink Floyd record in that way.
Yeah, it plays like I can describe it as like it's kind of like a book, but each track is like a chapter. Like it's all maybe like I don't know.
I think that's a good way to look at this album.
But that brings me to like
a book, like it.
Like yeah, you don't just like read one chapter at a time. You know, it's.
I agree completely. Yeah, you kind of have to take it all in. It works better when you take it all in.
But that's something that kind of bugs me about this album at the same time, because I feel like they start every chapter with the last paragraph of the previous chapter.
It's like they write the ending to go into the intro.
Yeah, and so if you're just skipping
True.
through this, you get that Tool effect where you get the last like few seconds of
Tool
the
effect, that's
previous
funny.
album or the previous track, and you're just like, oh, what does that have to do
No,
with
you're
the
right when
current?
you said previous
it
album.
kind of bugs me. But that being said, it as an entire album, the flow and the transitions between tracks is really good.
But you do get lost.
I do like.
You don't know what song's which.
No,
I listened to
I know
this.
parts.
Yeah, exactly.
The first time I listened to this, I was kind of like, oh, this is a really long track.
Mm.
And I looked down and I think I was on track 2 or 3. And I was like, oh, when did we change? So I had to go back and like start the track over to find out where that transition was. And I feel like that was a theme for me through the first like couple listens through on this. I would get lost in what was going
Same,
on.
yeah.
And
It's cool, but also you're lost.
yeah, and so it's kind of like this anxiety-inducing thing of like, this album's going to be over because it's enjoyable.
Casey doesn't know where he's at. He's like, I
But-
don't know where I'm at.
I don't know where I'm at.
But the problem with it is like it's this anxiety-inducing thing because you're listening to it and all of a sudden the album's over. You're like, wait a minute, I'm still on track 1.
One of the
Yeah.
things I would
And
have,
has
it kind
that
of bugs me.
what bugs me is kind of it's almost kind of like this band is AI. Like I get that there's a concept here and stuff like that. and
Except for it makes sense.
Well, like I don't get that musically necessarily. You know what I mean?
I feel it lyrically and emotionally. You brought up Will Ramos earlier. I can't help but compare this to like other deathcore and modern new metal bands that are doing like a variety of like.
I don't see that at all in this album.
Well,
But
I feel like maybe in vocal performance,
just to
yes.
explain what I feel with the vocal performance, okay? So I think like in Lorna Shore, Will Ramos is very technically sound and can do a lot of different stuff, but he's like lacking some emotion.
Okay. Yeah, I can
Versus
see
like
that.
we reviewed Slaughter to Prevail, and Alex Terrible is very visceral, angry, and
Emotional.
emotional, right? There's more emotion
But he
there.
lacks that technical ability.
But it's like not super deep technically. Chaney Crabb's like kind of in the middle where she's like does a lot of variety, a ton of variety, but a lot of it's very emotional, especially like, and usually I don't like high pitched screams like this, but she'll do these screams in these like long passages with these lyrics, and you can understand what she's saying.
for sure.
And it's just she brings it fucking hard on this dude.
I
Very
feel,
impressive.
I feel like she has the ability, and I don't know if this is a dig at this band or if this is to me this is a compliment, but I feel like they have the ability to portray an emotion and a sense, kind of how Tool does. I feel like the music on this portrays that and pushes it forward, and her vocal performance does the same thing.
Almost like soundtrack music, huh?
Kind of, yeah.
Tool is more rhythmic and more human.
No,
Like,
for
this
sure.
is
Good
not
way to
very
say it,
human.
yeah.
No, I 100%
Is that what you're saying,
agree.
AI?
Yeah, I feel like I agree. Like, okay, so there's a couple things I don't like about it. Is one, the spacey guitar sound that everyone does. Like when it goes into a solo, it's like, okay, every band does this
Like
now.
Fallujah.
Yeah,
and
it's
stuff.
like I don't care about it. So like I hate those parts. I really do. And then the other parts that I really hate are the high pitch where she's like like I actually don't like that. I
Really?
never
Really?
liked that type of vocal. I just
You listen to more black metal than anyone I know.
it's not that doesn't sound like
But
black
you,
metal.
it's
to me.
like
That's like
it's screechy, abrasive. You love Dark Throne.
yeah, but that's not
I like how that's your answer.
again,
That you like
again.
Dark Throne.
again dark.
You
Throne.
like bad music.
Like you brought up Tool. Tool is more humanistic. Dark Throne is more
That's a
human.
good way of putting it.
This is
It is,
I'm not
but-
I don't want to take away from this because I know this is like probably a emotional album for this artist or whatever, but I just don't feel that emotion. I wish it was a little bit more dirtier. I wish they would get rid of those spacey rock things, and I wish you just wouldn't do that part of the vocal, and I would probably like it a lot more.
I think that's fair criticism. Do you think it's too like studio band esque?
Yeah, I'm kind of not a big fan of these YouTube vocalist. I'm not saying that's what she is, but she does do videos and stuff like that.
Right.
And I know that's great for other artists and stuff like that, but like my vocal, like, you know, learning was like watching a video of like Black Flag or like either like listening to something like that or black metal, you know? So like I don't get the aspect of like
Do you get like a
perfecting it. I don't know.
Do you get like the idea this is like kind of like Seven Spires where this is like educated?
I think this is better than Seven Spires.
But the
for
band
sure.
is like educated, or they're trying to educate
I
themselves.
think they're good. I think they're really good players, and I think that, you know, they can definitely move up and down some scales and do this. But I to me, I don't feel I don't feel like an emotional connection to the music.
Yeah,
I think they're very talented. I think it's cool, but I also need to be like, I mean, Cannibal Corpse even gets me emotionally invested. You know, this.
Yeah,
doesn't really...
I feel like that's the real trick with bands like this. Is it emotional or not? Sometimes it's just like technical. For
hey, I can do this.
Yeah,
But-
for the sake of being technical.
But at the same time, I kind of think I get where Nathan's coming from, because being as this is only a 2-piece, this is like...
By the way, he's destroying all the instruments.
For sure, 100%. I don't want to take anything away.
I don't know if he's programming drums or playing drums. The drums are great on this.
I don't want to take anything away from
I
him.
agree with you. I actually wrote that down, that I think the drums are like...
It kind of
really
goes
good.
overlooked because everything else is kind of badass on top of it. The drumming's great.
And I don't want to take anything away from them musicianship-wise, but I feel like I kind of agree with Nathan where there's this like disconnect where it's two people, they write everything, and then they bring these other people in to play it. And is it just a studio band?
Yeah, is it a band, man?
Like, is it a band or is it a studio band? Like, is this something
Do they
like...
practice by themselves, or do they practice
Or
together?
do they practice with a group?
I've seen live clips and stuff, so they definitely play live, but I get what you guys are saying.
But at the same time, I also don't agree with Nathan on the fact that like the visceral emotion in this, like, to me it doesn't sound AI. Like, to me this Tool sounds human and like personal, but I feel like this sounds personal in the same way. Just
I feel like Tool's a bad comparison.
I would say primal.
Tool, yeah.
I would use the word primal.
So that's the thing.
But
So
Tool's
Tool,
so like bare bones.
but
like,
I'm talking about the emotion portrayed through a song.
Yeah.
Like, so I feel like Tool portrays an emotion through a human connection, where this portrays an emotion through like a visceral like sound or feeling.
It's more negative emotions.
I don't even think it's
I
negative.
don't even think we should be comparing Tool and this band together, but because somebody brought up Tool, so like,
Yeah,
you know,
no, and I'm not trying to compare Tool. I'm just trying to compare the fact that she's just as good as Maynard is as producing emotion through her vocal performance. The visceral screams and like the pig squeals in the background and stuff, and and the parts you don't like, the high pitch, I love those parts. I think they're fucking great. I think they show this raw
She
emotion.
feels like she's in pain. Like it sounds like that.
It feels like you're hurting and you're crying out. It's really cool. The issue I have with this is there's so much going on at times, especially like with the guitar, because the guitar work on this is great, but then they go into these kind of higher registers and they almost match the vocals in the register range to where you almost lose fidelity on like the
like
vocals.
It all blends together.
It kind of blends together and you kind of lose what's going on, which I think could just be fixed by like adjusting the timing of like vocal patterns and things like that. But the mix on this is great. There's this awesome groove and this chugging bass line throughout this whole album that's really good.
It sounds like farts in some parts. You brought it up. Like, it honestly, that
there's like some farty bass
where like
bits.
the clean vocals come in. I can't remember the name of the song because it's just all together as one piece. But there's a part, and then all of a sudden, like, her clean vocals are like sounding really good, and then all of a sudden here.
Well, and so
Is this the Morgan album?
but also at the same time, I feel like
Sounds like
that's
farts.
on one of my notes too. Is like it's because like that tone between the guitar and the bass almost match each other, and you get that almost distorted guitar on top of the bass, and it does sound like somebody's ass cheeks are flapping pretty hard.
I just wonder, like, how many layers is this guitar riff going through? Like,
So I watched a couple.
Yeah, there's a lot of studio.
I watched a couple live videos of this, and they sound almost just as good live as they do on album. So I'm not going to rag
playing
them
tracks?
They might be. I mean, fall in reverse.
Yeah, they can't play without a laptop.
dude, like, the Sinking Sun? That's like the only song that has any groove to it.
I feel like there's a lot of grooves.
I
through
feel
all
like
these
that's
albums.
the weaker song.
I do too. I feel like there's this jazzy feel to this. I actually wrote in my notes, Imperial Triumphant meets Fallujah. Because that's what this feels like to me. It's got the
Mostly Fallujah.
no, dude. It's got the awesome.
Never mind, sorry.
No, it's got the awesome bass and like the jazzy groove that the Imperial Triumphant has.
I feel you.
But with like those spacey guitar parts that Nathan hates of Fallujah, which I fucking love. I think those are.
I don't like.
No,
I
just
just
yeah, but you feel like they're
overplayed.
Yeah,
It's like.
yeah, I fucking
kinda
love
hate 'em.
this album.
I actually thought of it in the sense of like, the guitar player and the vocalist, everything sounded really good. They're chilling, sipping on some champagne, and then the bass player would just hop in the party every once in a while, just like, and nobody pays no
Someone
mind
just
to
fart.
him. Nobody pays no mind to him. He's like,
That's
hey,
what you
I'm
wanted
gonna
to
do
ask?
this right here, and they're like,
That's what you wanted to add.
okay.
So much.
You're friends with a guy like this.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's just kind of lacking in, like, for me, like a little bit of a connection. So I give it a 3.0. I think the musicianship and everything is really cool. I think she's a great vocalist. I'll just never listen to this again, and I don't mean it in any bad way, but like I'll listen to Fallujah before I listen to this, and I don't even think that's fair to even like compare them, really, to tell you the truth.
I get it though.
I definitely do.
It's like that tech death,
Yeah, like I don't
modern
know, man.
sounding death metal.
And if I have to be really honest with myself, I haven't listened to Fallujah since we did it.
But you would listen to it over this.
Yeah, but this isn't my thing.
Style,
you know what I
yeah.
mean? So it's been cool doing this show and like listening to some of this different stuff.
I gave this a 4.8.
Nice.
Wow.
This is probably so far my favorite album of this year.
Fuck
Really?
yeah, dude.
That's interesting to me.
This album, I went into this like.
What stands out for you on this?
So first off, I feel like anytime somebody shows me something that I don't discover, I'm initially negative towards it. And so like
Oh my-
a couple
I've
weeks
noticed
ago, when Matt was like, "Oh, check out this. This is so cool," and I was like, "Yeah, fuck you. Get away from me."
Especially when I was like better than Will
Yeah.
Ramos.
And I was like, I don't want anything to do with this. And then I listened to it, and I didn't realize this was the one you were showing me. And I was like, first playthrough, I was like, oh God, like the first song kicks off, and I was like, I'm going to hate this. I'm going to fucking hate it. And then there's all these cool spacey guitar shit. There's cool fucking vocals. These crazy ups and downs and layerings and just like...
It's all over,
It's
yeah.
all over the place, and it's exactly like the shit that I like. It's super technical. It's super proggy. It's super metally.
That's tight that you're that into a record though this year. That's
album,
tight.
Yeah.
The more I listened to it, I just kept finding myself like, I don't even want to listen to the other albums we're supposed to review this week. I just wanted to listen to this on repeat. It was
Dang.
that fucking good. And I
That's
probably
awesome, dude.
had we given it like another like 6 months on this one album, I probably would have given it a 5. And by the end of this year, it probably will be a 5. But this album fucking kills it.
Hell
I'm
yeah,
obsessed with it. This is probably my favorite discovery that we've reviewed on the show that you guys have brought to me since Imperial Triumphant.
Really? That's awesome. You heard it, folks. Casey's favorite band thus far, or favorite album, or most impressive.
At least this season or this session, like this is killer.
Yeah.
So it's a contender most likely for the
this
year.
this is my number 1 for the year so far.
Oh, nice.
So we'll do a best of 2023 list.
We'll
Yeah.
see if it makes
Subscribe and check that out at the end of the year.
We'll see
or
what changes.
early
But I
next
mean,
year,
we're
I
like
think
halfway through the year, and this is like killing it for me.
Interestingly, I give it a 3.9 out of 5.
Oh, shite.
I think it's good. It's not great.
Okay.
And I'll tell you why, is because I think as an album, it's excellent. It like all the seamless parts, it has a theme, all that stuff, but it lacks like hooks and bangers. Like I can't really take anything off of this. Like for an album to be like a 5, it has to be both things. It has to be Pink Floyd, the Dark Side of the Moon. Right. It works as an album and there's bangers on it and parts that just hook. This I think is a great experience, a deep, complex album. And there's like parts that jump out, but like it's hard for me to even say what songs I like, except for Clarity and Waves. And that's just because she's just bringing the vocal onslaught on that in such a way that like really blew me away.
That was one thing that like kind of drew me back to this. Like right when you feel like it's kind of getting predictable and stuff, she busts out with those clean vocals and stuff. And I'm just like, man.
It's always interesting.
And I'm just like, I wish she would have sprinkled this in to like a couple other songs. Because I
think it's fine.
Oh, I think it's great. But I think just that little bit might just.
I hope they continue with it.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be great to see what they do after this.
So I think it's a bold move doing an album like this for them.
Oh, for sure.
I feel like bands like Gorguts do this better, where they do like one large piece of music and it's more cohesive.
So you would compare this to Gorguts though?
And the fact that it like works as one giant piece of music. They've done like pieces like that, like Pallades Dust or whatever.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, yeah.
You know, it's like 30 minutes of like fucked up guitar playing from Canada. Let us know what Gorguts album we should review, or any other album for that matter. We're Blenderstyle, and that was Entheos. Time will take us all. Like and subscribe. Cheers, gentlemen.
Cheers.
To all.
Take us all.
Every day is a death to me.